Are you manifesting a miraculous future or rehearsing your past for divine healing? In the dim glow of the chapel, Sarah dropped to her knees, her heart pounding like a drum echoing in her ears. The whispers of hope brushed the stone walls, reverberating with the prayers of the villagers who packed in tight, their faces illuminated by flickering candles. O St. Jude, patron of hopeless causes, intercede for us. The words were a balm for her worried spirit, a joyful urgency beckoning her closer to the divine. Jacob, her beloved son, sat in the front pew, his small hands clutching his toy, his face pale as if the very life force had dimmed within him. The chapel of St. Jude felt alive, almost electric, the air rich with promise and divine mystery, stretching beyond the visible. The villagers wrapped her in prayer, hearts united, lifting their voices like a chorus to the heavens. But doubt crept in, shadowing Sarah's heart. Memories flickered through her mind, the missed opportunities, the moments of despair when faith slipped like sand through her fingers. The ache in her chest was a heavy reminder of past failures, dark clouds threatening to obscure the light of her hope. Could she trust in a God who seemed so silent in her darkest hours? A shuddering breath escaped her lips as her thoughts raced like a whirlwind. Just then, the pastor stepped forward, his voice slicing through her turmoil. "Step out boldly in faith, for healing is near." The words pierced through her fog of worries, igniting a flicker of hope that shimmered like a gold coin in the depths of uncertainty. But that hope came tethered to needles of fear. Was it genuine? Or was it only a fleeting chance for a desperate mother clinging to divine promises? With a resolve born from the depths of her soul, Sarah sought every unconventional treatment she could find each night, filled with the sterile scent of hospitals, clinics where whispered miracles were promised. Bolstered by fragments of encouragement, she threw herself into late-night drives, seeking solutions. Yet every visit ended with heartbreak, Jacob's struggle growing heavier like a weight upon her chest. Yet, as the weeks passed, the community, that steadfast band of friends and believers, began to rise. Whispers of prayer grew into a symphony of voices uniting in fervent intercession. Each night, the chapel filled with song, a tapestry of old hymns wrapping around Sarah and Jacob like a holy embrace. The very air buzzed expectantly, every heart believing the impossible. Then came the night, the air electric with tension. The congregation held its breath, voices ascending in an anthem infused with divinity. "We claim healing in Jesus' name," they cried in unison, the sound washing over Sarah like a wave. Just then, a soft murmur spread. Jacob, in a miraculous moment, began to respond. Laughter bubbled, cheers erupted, and Sarah felt warmth blooming in her heart. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but even as joy unfurled, doubts clawed at her thoughts. Had she truly laid her past to rest, or did those shadows dance on the periphery, threatening to dim the glow of her son's miraculous recovery? As the congregation raised their eyes in expectation, Sarah's soul found itself at a precipice, suspended between faith and fear. Voices lifted in praise, the room a swirl of divine urgency and anticipation. Yet in the quiet corners of her heart, a tempest brewed. Would she step boldly into the promise of healing, or would she retreat back to the familiar haunt of her failures? Clutching Jacob's hand tightly, she felt the weight of faith and struggle intertwined, ensnared between what was known and what could be. The question lingered in the air, a divine reckoning about to unfold. As the vibrant praise washed over her, Sarah's heart fluttered, torn between the thrill of potential renewal and the shrouded fear that clung stubbornly to her thoughts. Jacob's hand felt warm, steadying her like an anchor in a sea of swirling emotion. She closed her eyes, seeking solace in prayer, the familiar words spilling forth in a desperate rhythm. Lord, I trust in you. Please guide us. The congregation's voices rose higher, a tangible energy pulsing within the chapel. Flickering candles cast dancing shadows, revealing faces illuminated with faith. It was impossible not to feel the collective spirit, the overwhelming sense of belonging and communal hope surged around her, wrapping her in a vibrant cloak of encouragement. Yet, in the stillness of her soul, doubt whispered persistently. And then, like a cool breeze lifting a veil, a voice from the back of the chapel spoke up, breaking through Sarah's internal tumult. An elderly woman, her silver hair aglow in the candlelight, stood motionless. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Her voice was steady, a beacon cutting through the chaos of worry. The room softened, the energy shifting as the villagers turned their gazes toward the woman. He has plans for us, she continued, eyes sparkling with conviction. Plans to prosper and not to harm us. Plans to give us hope and a future. The words hung in the air like sweet incense, reverberating within Sarah's spirit. Could it be that Sarah's own doubts were just shadows cast by her past? Could faith ignite the very heart of the void? The warmth from the candlelight felt suddenly brighter, illuminating not just her surroundings, but the very recesses of her mind. Tears pooled in Sarah's eyes, her heart opening like a blossom basking in the sunlight. She felt Jacob squeeze her hand, a subtle reminder of all the love and hope she had poured into his little life. Stepping into faith meant stepping away from the darkness she had carried for so long. As if sensing her shift, Jacob turned toward her, his eyes sparkling with youthful innocence. "Mommy, is everything going to be okay?" His voice was laced with that childlike trust that cuts through adult fears like a sword. "Oh, my sweet boy," Sarah breathed, her voice thick with emotion. "With God's help, I believe it will." In that moment, clarity washed over her. She realized that healing had less to do with the outcome and everything to do with the journey of faith she was willing to walk. And as she looked out at the congregation, a wave of love washed over her, each face reflecting the light of hope. "We are all in this together," she thought, unwilling to let the moment slip away into despair. There was strength in unity, and they were all part of this divine tapestry. As they sang louder, "Praise God from whom all blessings flow." Sarah felt the chains of her past beginning to loosen. Together, they were manifesting a miracle, a poignant reminder that hope is woven into the very fabric of faith. With each note rising to the heavens, Sarah vowed to put aside the burdens that sought to enslave her spirit. The time for reckoning was now. It was time to embrace the miracle unfolding before her. But just as joy began to anchor itself firmly in her heart, a sudden flicker of doubt darted through her mind. What if her faith was not enough? What if the road ahead was steeper than she could ever imagine? A tremor of uncertainty shook her as she grasped Jacob's hand tighter, the promise of healing dancing tantalizingly close. Was she ready to step fully into what God had in store? The answer hung in the air, filled with divine potential, a celestial mystery waiting to be unveiled. What lay beyond this moment of promise? The air in the chapel felt electric, charged with anticipation as Sarah opened her eyes, facing the vibrant faces of her community. Each smile was an affirmation, each nod a silent promise that she was not alone in this moment. Jacob beamed at her, his small hand still in hers, as if their intertwined fingers were a lifeline connecting them both to the divine undercurrent flowing through the gathering. "Mommy, can we sing together?" Jacob's innocent request pierced through Sarah's reflective state, pulling her back into the present. What joy his question brought! It stirred something deep within her, a reminder of the power of communal worship, of the strength found in voices raised together. "Oh, how I would love that," she replied, her heart warming at the thought of lifting their voices in unison, pure and joyful. It was a reminder that even amidst uncertainty, love and faith could blossom anew. Turning to face the altar, she joined in, her voice rising among the chorus as they sang of grace and redemption. Each note reverberated in her chest, anointing her with hope. Sarah felt the weight of her doubt begin to dissipate, as if with every note she was shedding a layer of her old self. Suddenly, she remembered the elderly woman's words, lingering like a fragrant memory. He has plans for us. Did she dare to believe it? Did she want to embrace that truth? As they sang, she felt the spirit of her community wrapping around her like a warm embrace. She was part of something far greater than herself, a collective faith powerful enough to chase darkness away. But then, among the waves of joy, shadows of doubt danced at the edges of her mind. What if it's all just a dream? The thought was insidious, threatening to pull her back into despair. Yet, she clung tighter to Jacob. His unwavering optimism was a mirror reflecting a light she craved to see. "Mommy, look at the candles." He pointed with glee, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. She followed his gaze, captivated by the flickering flames. They seemed to stand taller, brighter. "It's like they're dancing," Jacob exclaimed, filled with wonder. The child's innocent observation stirred something within Sarah. The candles flickered, yes, but they also brought warmth and light into the dimness. In that moment, she realized she had a choice. She could choose to embrace the light, to let it guide her through the shadows. Just as those candles shine even in the wind, so can our faith shine in trials, she thought, her heart swelling with clarity. The shadows would come. They always did. But it was her response that mattered most. As their voices melded in glorious harmony, Sarah felt a change deepen within her, softening, an opening of her soul. Healing wasn't just about overcoming the past. It was about believing in the promise of what was to come. God's plan was already set in motion, and her faith was the key. The music swelled, melodies intertwining like threads in a grand design, and uniquely, she felt the congregation leaning into faith with her. Just then, the elderly woman caught her eye, nodding with approval, and for the first time, Sarah felt assured despite the uncertainty swirling around her. Then, faint yet distinct, a whisper broke through the melody in her heart, urging her to step further into the unknown. Are you willing to follow through with what he has planned? The question hung heavy, yet tantalizingly light, a prompt to delve deeper into her own commitment. With Jacob's hand still in hers, she inhaled deeply, contemplating the road ahead filled with divine potential. Was she capable of manifesting this miraculous future, or would she let her past hold her captive? The moment hung suspended, waiting for her answer, like a door slightly ajar, beckoning her to glimpse the wonders beyond. What awaited her on this path of faith? And could she now take the first step? The moment stretched, holding its breath like the congregation around her. Sarah felt its magnetic pull, calling her deeper into the essence of faith. Jacob, his innocence radiating like a sunbeam, smiled up at her. His little fingers squeezed hers tightly, as if sharing a secret only they understood. "Mommy, let us go forward," he said, his voice a melody in the silence that followed the song. Sarah could hardly believe how rooted in hope he was. Forward, the word echoed in her thoughts, carrying her back to the elderly woman's steady gaze, prompting her to peel away the doubts that clung stubbornly to her spirit. As the music faded, a hush fell over the chapel, and Sarah felt the soft rustle of fabric as people shifted in their pews. Eyes turned expectantly toward the altar, hearts open and waiting. It was evident that each person there held their own burdens, yet together they created an atmosphere buzzing with possibility. "Do you feel that?" she whispered to Jacob, her heart racing, as if awakening for the first time in years. "What, Mommy?" he asked, his brow furrowing slightly. The energy of everyone, their hopes blending into one. Her heart swelled with gratitude, sensing something sacred in that unity. "Can we share it with Jesus?" Jacob asked, his earnestness like a balm to her soul. "Yes, my love. Let us take all our hopes and share them together. What a simple and profound request. The beauty of that moment washed over her, and she couldn't help but draw in a deep breath, holding it, savoring the air thick with divine presence. Surrounded by warm faces uplifted in prayer, Sarah closed her eyes. She envisioned the candles from earlier, flickering brightly, illuminating even the darkest corners of her heart. Each flame seemed to carry a love note from God, whispering promises of hope woven into her very being. Lord, I do want to surrender my fears, she prayed silently but earnestly. Please guide me toward that future you have set for me, for us. With that earnest request resting heavily on her heart, Sarah felt a gentle tug at her spirit. The weight of the past, though familiar and comforting, now seemed like chains that limited her view of what lay ahead. Mommy? Jacob's voice broke through her prayerful thoughts, pulling her back to the present. Yes, sweetheart. Are we going to dance? His question caught her off guard. Dance? It was not just a physical motion, but a beautiful expression of joy, trust, and freedom. Dance? She repeated, the words igniting something within her. Yes, we're going to dance through our faith. As if resonating with her declaration, the music swelled again, this time anointed with a spirit of celebration. She stood taller, feeling the rush of courage infuse her heart. As the congregation began to sway in rhythm, Sarah squeezed Jacob's hand and began to lead them forward toward the altar. With each step, she felt the burdens begin to lift her insecurities, her anxieties, all melting away in the face of her newfound determination. The world around her transformed, an ethereal light illuminating their path. Suddenly, she found herself at the front of the chapel, surrounded by the warmth of loving faces, hearts beating in tandem, united in worship. Let us dance together, she announced, her spirit ignited by the divine energy that filled the space. It was not merely about physical movement. It was about stepping into the promise that God had in store for them. The music soared higher as they began to sway together, laughter bubbling up from the congregation. Sarah twirled with Jacob, delighting in the touch of pure innocence. Look, Mommy, he cried, his joy contagious. We're shining. And in that dance, Sarah understood. In surrendering her past, she was drawing nearer to her miraculous future. As the melody reached a crescendo, a soft light enveloped them, and in that moment, it seemed that the heavens opened just for them. What if these moments were just the beginning? A thought flit across her mind, pushing her heart to expand even more. And with that thought, uncertain yet thrilling, Sarah realized that the journey was just starting. What other wonders awaited those brave enough to step forward in faith? What would they discover beyond the dance? In that luminous embrace of music and movement, Sarah felt a rhythm pulsing through her veins. It was more than just a dance. It was a divine communion, a celebration of promises that hovered above them like golden threads of hope. The laughter, the smiles, and even the silent prayers woven into the fabric of the moment enveloped her like a comforting blanket. She glanced at the faces surrounding her. Each visage was a testament to resilience, a mosaic of stories etched with struggles and victories. There was a woman with tears glistening in her eyes, a husband whispering words of love to his wife, and a child spinning joyously, lost in the delight of faith made tangible. Everyone was united, not just by shared burdens, but by the freeing spirit of surrender. Mommy, the light is dancing too, Jacob exclaimed, pointing toward the window where beams of golden sunlight streamed through the stained glass. Each color glimmered like the individual notes of the hymn they sang, harmonizing into a divine symphony. Yes, sweetheart, look at God's creation celebrating with us. Sarah felt her heart swell. How marvelous was their God, who used the simplest things, a beam of light, a child's laughter to remind them of his presence. As they twirled, Sarah began to think deeply about what it meant to let go. Each spin was an act of faith, unraveling the threads of fear that had woven themselves through her heart. Jesus, she whispered under her breath, allowing the name to roll off her tongue like a soothing balm. Help me to trust in what lies ahead. In that moment, she felt the power of her words. She had begun to not just dance for herself, but for others too. For those who stood frozen in uncertainty, for hearts that felt heavy, and for weary souls looking for a glimmer of hope, the music slowed, and so did the movements. They lingered together, breath steadying, hearts entwined. This sacred stillness was interrupted only by the soft sound of prayers, murmured promises that filled the space with its weight. The divine was there, palpable and full. Can you feel them? Jacob's small voice broke through the serenity. They want to dance too. His innocent enthusiasm sparked something deep inside. They're waiting for us to lead them, Sarah replied, sensing a profound calling. Let us invite all of them to join us. With renewed energy, Sarah released Jacob's hand and turned to the congregation, her voice ringing clear and full of conviction. Come, let's all dance in joy. Let's not hold back, but celebrate the love that binds us. One by one, the people began to rise, hesitant at first, then emboldened by the spirit of encouragement that surged through the air. The sound of footsteps began to mimic the heartbeats of faith-filled souls connecting. As the congregation began to dance together, Sarah felt the barriers break. Those walls that had kept them as separate individuals fell away, revealing a unity that was simply breathtaking. One incredible sight, it was people who had once been weighed down, now stepping into the light. She twirled with Jacob once more, and each turn unveiled a fresh burst of freedom and connection to the divine wellspring of hope that flowed around them. Mommy, this is amazing. He laughed, his delight a melody unto itself. Yes, my love, this is who we are. We are children of God, free to rejoice. In that moment of unbridled joy, Sarah felt a new understanding of her journey. It was not merely about stepping forward, but also about gathering others in love, holding their hands in spiritual solidarity. But amidst the celebration, a whisper lingered, a question about what the true next steps would be. Were they ready to carry this joyful truth beyond the chapel's walls? What challenges lay ahead that would test their newfound courage? As they continued to dance, the rhythm of anticipation thrummed beneath their feet, stirring in their hearts a longing to explore the depths of their faith further. The light glimmered with promises of what they might discover, and with each heartbeat, the pieces of the divine plan began to come together in ways they could only begin to fathom. What awaited them beyond the dance? Would they find the miracles they sought or face trials crafted to strengthen their faith? The energy in the chapel pulsed like a living thing. As Sarah and the congregation danced, each step echoed their shared surrender, their collective faith. It was as if the very walls were vibrating with a love radiating from their hearts. People twirled and moved, shaking off the weights of yesterday, stepping boldly into a future filled with promise. Amidst the laughter and the music, Sarah noticed a gentleman at the far end of the room. He stood apart, watching the joyful celebration with a contemplative gaze. There was a heaviness about him, a shadow that didn't seem to align with the light they were all soaking in. She felt a stirring in her spirit, the kind that tugged gently but insisted. Jacob, she said softly, kneeling beside him, do you see that man? Let us invite him to join our dance. With an eager nod, Jacob led the way, his small hand reaching out to the stranger. As they approached, the man's eyes widened, both surprised and hesitant. Come, friend, join us, Sarah said, her voice warm and inviting. We are celebrating joy. You are welcome here. The man offered a slight smile, but it quickly faded. I don't know how to dance, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Dancing is not about perfection. It's about the heart. Just take a step with us. Jacob encouraged, his innocence shining through. He reached for the man's hand, pulling slightly, as if reminding him he was not alone. Slowly, the man stepped forward, hesitatingly joining the rhythm. With each beat, Sarah sensed the walls around his heart begin to fracture. Little by little, he allowed the music to sweep him in, surprisingly lightening his burden, just as it had for others. As he moved, the shadows began to lift from his spirit, and Sarah felt a swell of hope wash over her. "See," she said softly to Jacob, "he is joining us in the light. This is what faith can do." The music crescendoed, and Sarah noticed others beginning to approach the duo. Their smiles were reassuring, arms outstretched, encouraging the newcomer to step deeper into the collective joy. The chapel transformed into a vibrant whirlpool of movement, enveloping them all. But in that commotion, Sarah's heart pulled her attention back to the gentleman. She sensed he carried deep pain. "What burdens do you carry?" she thought, and with a flash, she understood that sometimes dancing isn't about the feet. It's about surrendering the soul. When the music softened again, an embrace of stillness washed over them. The congregants paused, breathing in the sacred presence that filled the space. It was then that the man with the quiet heart spoke, his voice trembling with emotion. "I lost my wife last year," he began, and Sarah felt the atmosphere thick with shared grief. "I've been so lost since then. I didn't think I could find love again. Not here, not anywhere." The gentle murmurs of understanding floated around the room. Several people nodded, tears brimming in their eyes as they resonated with his heartache. "Oh, dear brother," Sarah said, stepping closer. "The love of God holds us even in our deepest sorrow. You are stepping into a familial love tonight. Let this dance be a rebirth for you." The light around them flickered with renewed brightness, as if affirming her words. The atmosphere felt alive, sparking in divine response. The rhythm picked up once more, and Sarah held out her hand, inviting him fully into the dance. He hesitated, but the warmth and encouragement of the congregation wrapped around him like a cocoon. Mustering courage, he stepped forward. As they moved, Sarah felt an unusual sensation ripple through the space. It was not just joy, it was healing. She paused once more to breathe in the divine, understanding that in sharing their struggles and triumphs, they were weaving a tapestry of resurrection together. In that sacred moment, she realized they were all being transformed, shedding past chains while echoing the words of the Father, every step a declaration of faith, every smile a promise made real. But as the dance continued, Sarah recognized the swirling questions that would follow. This encounter, what would it mean to carry this healing spirit into a world that remained so broken? Would they dare to confront the challenges of tomorrow with the strength found in their shared experience? Are they ready to manifest something miraculous outside these walls, even in the midst of struggle and doubt? The music played on, the dance continued, but the real journey loomed just ahead. What divine call awaited them beyond this moment? What miracles, what trials beckoned on the horizon? The dance surged on, pulsing with the heartbeat of hope and healing. Sarah noticed how the man, Daniel, had begun to smile freely. His face, once etched with sorrow, now reflected the dawning light of acceptance. Jacob's laughter rang out like a bell, inviting others to join. The warmth of community encased them all, igniting spirits that had long remained dormant. As they danced, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of purpose that swirled around her. Each twirl, each step felt like a declaration of freedom. The music transformed into something ethereal, lifting them to realms beyond their earthly worries. She saw the congregation grow larger, illuminated by faith, each individual a part of a beautiful mosaic, every piece telling a story of struggle, triumph, and divine love. But in the midst of this joyful chaos, doubts brushed against her thoughts. What if this moment fades? She wondered. What if tomorrow feels dull and gray? Deep inside, she yearned to understand how to carry this light into a world that often felt so dark. "Lord," she whispered in silent prayer, "give us strength to carry this love beyond these walls." It was then that Daniel spoke again, his voice breaking through the melody. "How do I keep this feeling?" he asked, his gaze searching Sarah's. "How do I remember this moment when I leave here?" Sarah's heart quickened. Here was a man standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to pursue. "We weave these moments together in our hearts," she said gently, "and we remind each other. Let our dance tonight be a promise to hold on to this love, to share it with those who need it. Others nodded in agreement, their eyes bright and full of hope. Souls began to connect, forming small groups as they discussed how to share the healing they had experienced with the outside world. "I want to help. I want to reach out to others who feel alone," Jacob piped up, his small voice cutting through the din. "Like Daniel. Like me." A murmur of affirmation flowed through the congregation. A young woman stepped forward, her eyes sparkling. "I've been carrying my own shame for too long. Maybe we can find those who suffer in silence and remind them they're not alone." "Yes, yes," someone else shouted, clapping their hands in excitement. "Let us form groups. Let us spread this joy and healing." With renewed energy, they sought to establish plans, a foundation for transforming their faith into action. As Sarah looked around at her fellow believers, she felt the spark of potential ignite. But at that moment, the music shifted. A resonating chord echoed through the chapel, drawing their attention back to the dance. It was as if the space itself was urging them to consider the enormity of their mission. "Will you be vessels of this love?" Sarah asked, her voice firm yet tender. "Will you step into the purpose that lies ahead?" A hush fell over the room as each person considered the weight of her words. They all stood bathed in a golden light, hearts beating in unison. Just then, a newcomer appeared at the door, hesitantly stepping inside. A shadow lingered at his heart, much like Daniel's had before. Sarah could feel the shift in the atmosphere. This is the moment, she thought, recognizing the divine connection unfolding before them. Would they embrace this new visitor as they had embraced Daniel? As she looked back to Daniel, a spiritual warmth surged through her. Here was a challenge, a chance to show that love didn't die and it multiplied. What would happen next? Would they welcome this man, inviting him into the dance once more? The music swelled again, and the night felt thick with anticipation. The call to manifest something greater lingered in the air, pregnant with divine possibility. What awaited them as they stepped forward? Would they be bold enough to weave another thread into the tapestry of healing? The newcomer lingered just inside the chapel door, his figure washed in muted light. There was a hesitance about him, a stillness that contrasted with the vibrant energy swirling around. Sarah's heart raced. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the opportunity to extend their abundant love and healing to someone new. "Come in," Sarah called, her voice filled with warmth. "You are welcome here." With a deep breath, the man stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the embrace of the community that had once felt so foreign. The flicker of doubt in his eyes was hard to miss, but there was also curiosity, a spark waiting to be ignited. The music seamlessly flowed around him as the congregation shifted, making space. "I'm Alex," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Welcome, Alex," Jacob exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. "We were just talking about how we can share the light we found here with others. You can join us." Each face in the room turned to Alex, their expressions imbued with encouragement. They saw not just a stranger, but a potential friend caught in a web of pain that this very dance could help untangle. Daniel stepped forward, a knowing smile lighting up his face. "Alex, I was once lost too," he shared, his eyes sincere. "This place had saved me. I learned that together we could break free from our struggles." The words wrapped around Alex as he took tentative steps into the room. Each footfall felt like a step towards freedom, a promise echoed in Daniel's story. The faces beaming back at him were mirrors of hope, reflecting what could be. As Alex settled into the rhythm, Sarah felt the energy shift. The music thrummed with newfound life, a chorus of hope blending with the promise of healing. "What has brought you here tonight?" she asked gently, wanting to know his heart. With a shaky breath, he began to share. "I've been carrying burdens, guilt, shame, loneliness. It felt easier to hide, but something inside me craved change." His voice faltered, wavering between vulnerability and lingering fear. "Change can be daunting," Sarah replied, sensing the gravity of his struggle. "But here, we remind each other that love is louder than loneliness. You don't have to face this alone. A collective murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Alex's shoulders relaxed as he absorbed their understanding. Together, we can cultivate a garden of healing, joked Jacob, trying to lighten the mood. Plant seeds of hope and watch them grow. Laughter echoed, dissipating the tension, and Alex basked in the warmth of connection. Tea that moment. Sarah subtly caught Daniel's eye. They both understood. Healing began not in solitude, but in shared stories. It was in unity, in embracing the broken parts of one another, where miracles would unfold. Let us make a promise, Sarah proposed, raising her hands as if to draw them in closer. We'll gather here, week after week, sharing our joys, our pains, our victories. Together, we'll be vessels of love, spreading light, hope, and healing outside these walls. A wave of agreement washed over the crowd, spirits ignited with purpose. "Count me in," shouted a voice from the back. Alex glanced around, the shadows of his doubt starting to lift. "Can we meet every week?" he asked, earnestness threading through his words. "Absolutely," someone chimed in, the energy growing like a wildfire, crackling with excitement. The realization hung in the air. They were on the cusp of something bigger, and they could all feel it. Their hearts beat as one, a chorus of promise resounding through the sanctuary. But amidst the joy and the laughter, Sarah felt a flicker of something deeper, a divine encouragement that begged to be shared. As she looked around, she sensed the universe was orchestrating more than just a gathering. It was creating a movement of faith that could reach beyond them, binding scars into solidarity. "Let us not just transform ourselves," Sarah reminded, her voice glowing with gravity, "but let us also reach outside these walls to those waiting to be seen, to be known, to be loved." The air crackled as her words sank in, a conviction sparkling like stars in the night sky. "What happens next?" Jacob whispered, his wide eyes shimmering with wonder. The anticipation held its breath, and Sarah's heart raced at the potential of what was to come. Would they not only dance, but also step boldly into the lives awaiting their message of hope? That uncharted path stretched before them, and together they stood at the threshold, eager to discover the miraculous unfolding ahead. What doors would their newfound love push open? The air within the chapel buzzed with anticipation, as a sense of divine purpose set the stage for what was to come. The soft glow of candlelight flickered on the walls, casting playful shadows that danced alongside the growing energy of the community. They were all excited, but also aware that change, while beautiful, often came with challenges. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of their collective spirit wrapping around him. He listened as Sarah spoke about transformation, the words echoing in his heart. The crowd felt like a tapestry, each thread vibrant and vital, woven together by shared dreams and burdens. He began to understand that he was not merely a spectator. He was now part of something indescribably larger. In a moment of profound clarity, Alex raised his hand, a simple gesture among many, yet felt monumental. "What if we could also bring those who feel hopeless?" he offered, his voice gaining strength with each word. "What if we opened our hearts wider to those still lost in darkness?" His proposition reverberated through the crowd, sparking smiles and nods as if a light had been switched on in each of them. Sarah felt a warm glow spread through her. This was a pivotal moment, an invitation for expansion, for the community to rise as vessels of compassion. "We can create an outreach, a way to reach those trapped in silence," she said, passion igniting her voice. "All it takes is one step outside of our comfort. We can carry the light to those who still shiver in shadows." A young woman named Mia chimed in, her eyes shining brightly. "I know an older lady down my street who feels so alone. I wanted to visit her, but never found the courage. Would it be too much to bring her here?" "Not at all." Daniel beamed. "Imagine the joy spread through love. Let's embrace outsiders as family. That's the essence of our community." The room erupted into a flurry of ideas. They spoke over one another, sharing names and stories, connections sparking like firecrackers. each voice added to the symphony of hope being orchestrated in that sacred space. Sarah felt an electric current of faith running through each suggestion, charging the atmosphere with purpose. Yet, beneath this glorious excitement, a shadow flickered in Alex's heart. What if they failed? What if their attempts at healing only revealed more pain? He looked around, and yet, amid his fear, he saw faces glowing with determination, love, and resolve, each one a testament to resilience. We cannot ignore our fear, but we must not let it shackle us, Sarah said gently, her eyes finding Alex. We move forward with faith, remembering we are not alone. With God's grace, we can turn our fears into stepping stones, not stumbling blocks. A collective hush fell over them, like a gentle breeze sweeping through a field of flowers. Each soul present felt the weight of those words, as hope began to blossom amidst their doubts and fears. Let us establish a day each week, Jacob suggested. We'll pray, share, and plan our outreach. We'll turn our promises into actions, lighting a path for others just as we were guided. Together, we can manifest a future filled with grace. The congregation united in a resounding amen that echoed off the chapel walls. In that heartbeat of agreement, Alex realized something profound. They were a tapestry not only woven with joy and hope, but also with memories of pain, healing, and faith. As the gathering began to disband, the energy was still palpable. Hearts fluttered with excitement at the promise of transformation. They left, each person carrying the weight of a shared commitment, a promise that spanned beyond the chapel's doors, filled with the volume of countless lives awaiting love and light. But as they stepped out into the night, an unexpected chill ran through Alex. What challenges awaited them as they ventured forth to share their light? Would their actions truly make a difference, or would they encounter obstacles that tested their collective resolve? In the silence of that question, the group departed, carrying not just hope, but the weight of uncertainty. What would they discover as they stepped into the unknown? The next chapter of their journey was poised just beyond the horizon, waiting to unfold. The sun stretched its tendrils of golden light across the village, painting the earth with hues of warmth and renewal. In the days following their transformative night, Sarah felt the continuous pulse of hope and purpose resound in her spirit. With the congregation, she stood ready to take the leap into a future brightened by faith. Each week they gathered, a medley of voices lifting in prayer and praise. Sarah sensed a powerful shift taking place among them. The more they shared their struggles, the deeper their bonds grew as a community. They became an unshakable fortress of love, embracing not only their own wounds, but also those of others. It was nothing short of miraculous. One evening, as twilight caressed the chapel with a gentle kiss, Sarah stood before the congregation once more. They had decided that night to reach out to a neighboring village known for its weariness and despair. "We are called to be the light that pierces the darkness," she declared, her voice steady and impassioned. "Each of us is a glowing flame created to inspire others. Let's shine together." Murmurs of agreement vibrated through the room as eyes glistened with conviction. Sarah scanned the faces. Each one told a story. Each heart carried a burden, and collectively they were ready to dance into the unknown, to lift the weary and show them the way back to hope. As they embarked on their outreach journey the following week, a symphony of compassion enveloped them. The congregation went door to door, holding hands, laughing, and offering love to those once locked up in despair. They brought food, blankets, and, more importantly, the warmth of shared stories. "You're not invisible," they would say. "We are here because you matter." In this newfound mission, Alex emerged as a leader. He shone with a fiery spirit, reaching out to those he previously felt afraid to approach. He had transformed, like a caterpillar into a butterfly, blossoming under the light of the faith rekindled in his heart. His laughter rang out, contagious and uplifting, as he encouraged others not to hold back. One radiant afternoon, while visiting a local park, the group came upon a woman sitting alone on a bench. Her eyes were heavy, weighed down by untold sorrows. Sarah approached gently, feeling the familiar urge to extend the hands of Goddess Love. "Hello," she said softly. "We're here to share some love and joy. May we sit with you?" The woman's gaze flickered upward, surprise mingling with hesitance. "Why would you want to talk to me?" she whispered, her eyes searching theirs for a glimmer of sincerity. "Because everyone deserves a friend," Jacob chimed in, his small voice radiating innocence and truth. "We're all in this together. Let us share a bit of sunshine." Sarah felt warmth pooling in her chest as she observed her son. His childlike faith brought life to their mission, proving that love knows no age. The woman shifted, allowing a small smile to break through her guarded shell. Slowly, she recounted her recent struggles, and the burden of her heart began to feel lighter. Shared among these unexpected companions, they gathered around her, supporting her with kindness and laughter. That day, they not only shared gifts, they shared hope. Sarah realized that every interaction deepened their collective light, illuminating even the darkest corners of grief. Weeks turned into months, and their mission flourished. With every outreach, they witnessed transformations. The hopeless found solace, the lost regained their footing. They were manifestations of God's love woven into humanity's fabric, inspiring a ripple of change that echoed through the villages. But amid their heartfelt achievements, doubt sometimes crept back into Sarah's heart. On one particular evening, sitting by the fire at the chapel after a long day, she wondered aloud, "Are we truly making a difference? What if our efforts go unnoticed?" As if in response to her fears, the elderly woman from before appeared in her thoughts. "We are overcoming darkness, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come," she told her spirit. Just then, the doors swung open, and a young girl stepped inside, a familiar look of uncertainty in her eyes. "I heard you help people," she said timidly. "I feel alone, lost." Sarah's heart swelled as she rushed to embrace her, feeling the echo of divine presence. "You've come to the right place," she said warmly. "We've been waiting for you." In that moment, Sarah understood. It wasn't always about the miracles they expected. Sometimes it was about the simple act of showing up, being a light in another's life. They were planting seeds of love, and before long, those seeds would grow into magnificent trees sheltering the weary. Time marched on, and the friendships they forged became unbreakable threads. Sarah often pondered the journeys of each member of the congregation. They had all embraced their pasts, stepped into the present, and advanced boldly into the future together. As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting a majestic palette across the sky, Sarah gathered all the children together for a moment of reflection. Candlelight flickered around them, illuminating their young smiles. And in that sacred atmosphere, Sarah spoke, "You are the bright future of this community. Share love as freely as you breathe. Write your stories in the world with every step you take. Shine your light, no matter where life takes you." As they lifted their tiny voices in harmonious song, Sarah felt her heart swell with pride and gratitude. They were weaving a divine tapestry, one of love, warmth, and unwavering faith. Her doubts faded away with the last light of day, replaced by a profound, deep-seated peace. And in that tranquil evening, Sarah understood. They were manifesting miracles every day. Now, dear friends, this is your chance to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel. Don't miss out on the next exclusive faith stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about this ending. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Your actions can spread the light even further.